We've been pretty much in about, I think, 17 countries within those first 5 years. And we can for sure tell that Taiwan has been the best place we've been. We love the outdoor, we love to go on hikes, to be outside in nature, and Taiwan has all of that.
Hey, 大家好，我是圆圆。台湾对我来说就是天堂，我特别喜欢台湾的大自然。不过有一件事情我一直觉得有一点可惜，就是平日的时间我都要上班，一个礼拜只有2天才可以探险台湾，那就是我人生的1/4的时间，好少。周末如果下雨，真的很伤心哦。所以有时候我真的希望我可以早一点退休，才可以每一天享受台湾。那今天的影片我会去找一位外国人，他虽然才40岁，但是他已经退休了，他可以每一天享受台湾的大自然，好羡慕哦。我会去找他，问他到底怎么可以这样。好，走吧。
Okay, so Mr. Nomad Number, welcome. Quick overview for the audience. So, Mr. Nomad Number, Mrs. Nomad Number, you are a French and American couple. The very unusual thing about you is that you basically retired in your 30s. Mm-hmm. Now it's been a couple of years where you have traveled the world and you have been also settling down in Taiwan recently. So today I think we can talk about two things. Yeah, why you chose Taiwan for a place for your retirement. And the second thing is let's talk more about personal finance and how you managed to achieve this goal of retiring super early. Among all the choice you have in the world, you chose to stay in Taiwan for some time. Is it 2 years now?
It has been almost, almost 2 years that we've been living in Taiwan. The first time we came in Taiwan was in 2020.
Okay.
And actually the reason why we came to Taiwan was because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, we've been traveling the world since actually 2018. So this month has been the 5-year mark of our slow travel. So I think we've been pretty much in about, I think, 17 countries within those first 5 years. And we can for sure tell that Taiwan has been the best place we've been.
What have you appreciated about Taiwan to make you decide to stay longer here?
Yeah, so there are many things that we love about Taiwan. The first one that we are very surprised about was the safety. It got to a point that after being in Taiwan for so many years, I ended up misplacing my GoPro in the U-bikes, and I've got that returned.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I dropped my wallet when I was hiking, and it got with all of my money, all of my IDs, and it's also got returned to the police station. So we've got really appreciative of how safe the country is and how nice people are when it comes to those things, which led also to the people. I think we've met a lot of people here. I mean, every time we have interaction in shops or since I don't speak Mandarin, so English is kind of the primary way I interact with people, and so they were always trying to help. Even though they don't sometimes speak English, they're just going to go above and beyond to interact with us. They are always trying to help us out, to make us feel at home. And then it has all of the places we love the outdoor, we love to go on hikes, to be outside in nature, and Taiwan has all of that. You probably cannot see on the video, but we're just sitting beside Yamingshan mountain. Taipei especially is so close to all of the outdoors, so you can just take the MRT or a bus and just start hiking for the day. So I think the access to nature is quite amazing.
Yeah.
And you can have a wide range of activities. There is hiking, there is snorkeling, there is scuba diving, there is river tracing. So you get to do pretty much everything you would like for an island of that size. It's quite impressive to see that, the diversity. And of course, not to mention the food, the drinks, boba tea, yeah, all of the wonderful dish of Taiwan, the street markets. So those are some of the pros about Taiwan. I think for all of the places we've seen, it is so far the place that we love the most, and that's why we decided to come back.
So what's a typical week for you in Taiwan?
So in the general rules of thumb we try to follow with Mrs. Nomad Numbers is 50% of our time will be towards exploration, so discovering the place, and the other 50% will be towards our project.
Okay.
So that's kind of the rough cut. Right now, because it's really hot, instead of doing a lot of hiking, I'll go swimming. Mrs. Nomad Numbers is taking French classes. She will join book clubs, for instance. I will join board games, those type of things. And then projects are different for both of us. For me, it's about the blog, publishing content on the blog, as well as some, I have a software engineering background, so building some applications on the web to always keep my brain going and active and
Yeah, you have a blog called nomadnumbers.com.
That's right.
And it's where you talk about your lifestyle as early retirees and sharing a lot of numbers, trying to show people that it's possible for a lot of people to also succeed in this, right?
Yeah, so what we wanted to share to people was initially the cost of travel. So on the blog, we just show how much we spend in each location, each years, so people can really see based on what we do and the cost that it's really not as expensive. Depending on which country you go, you might actually spend less in those countries that you will be spending in your home country. So there is that, and then we also share all of the philosophy as well as the tactics and how we make it happen.
Okay.
Some of those that we'll be discussing today, but that's kind of the idea.
You live in Taipei now, but you have actually also moved to many places around Taiwan, right?
Yes, so we've done, we were counting, I think maybe 6 or 7 places within Taipei, but we also went to Kenting, to Kaohsiung, to Tainan. I think the first year we were there, because Taiwan was really open and very safe, we just got to explore it and go to as many places as we could, and it was a really good experience.
And every time you move to those places, it's always like 1 month or something like this?
We try to at least do 1 month. It's less expensive, and it also gives us time to not having unpack.
Okay, so I've been saying that you are early retirees. Actually, this is something in the US called FIRE, Financial Independence, Retire Early.
Correct.
It's a movement that kind of grew in the US. Can you explain a bit more about this?
So it has those two concepts. The concept of financial independence, which is being able to cover your living expense through passive income. The second part is early retirement, because it means that you want to aim to reach financial independence before your regular retirement age.
Yeah.
So the intent is like to save those precious years in your life, to not have to work, and then live a life you really want.
I see.
I like to describe I think financial independence as kind of an armor that you wear on yourself.
Okay.
To have more protection to do things you want.
Okay.
So that way you can start, let's say you mentioned paintings, you want to start paintings once you have that armor on, if you fall, you are not going to get injured or anything, yeah? If your painting doesn't succeed as generating income, that's okay, because you have that armor now. So that's how I like to see it.
When or how did you decide to go in this direction, to retire earlier?
So shortly after I've met Mrs. Nomad Numbers, we decided to take a year off to travel the world, because we both love travel. And as we decided to do that, we started looking at the cost of travel. Through that research, not only we realized that it's much cheaper than we thought, but we also realized that people were able to do that kind of permanently. Which was like blowing our minds, like how can you just like travel indefinitely when you are still like pretty young? And yeah, so that's when we stumbled into the concept of financial independence and all of the personal finance knowledge that we don't know about how to make it work.
You know, in our countries, in France, also in Taiwan, people pay some kind of money every month to go to the pension, and when you get older, you can get all this money back. That's the regular way retirement works. But how can you achieve retiring much earlier than that? So
there is that rule of thumb, which is called the 4% rules. I won't go into the details, but basically, yeah, so if you can save 25 times your annual spending, then you have saved enough to be able to reach financial independence.
Okay.
Then, of course, you need that money to be invested. You cannot just keep it on an account or like on a savings account, but that's kind of the rule of thumb. What should I do right now if I want to retire earlier than 65? I think the key thing is really to maximize the savings. So your amount of money that you are saving every year, and do it as early as possible. Okay. Because the sooner you do it, the more compounding you will get. Yeah, it's something we often hear, like people always say, I wish I started earlier. Yeah, right. So you need to start as soon as you can, and then you basically have two ways to maximize your savings. Either you can earn more, so that can be through getting promotion at work, maybe spending times on weekends to learn new skills, to start maybe a business. Yep. So that's your way to increase your earnings. The other option, which is also important that sometimes people don't think about, is really to look at your spending and cut what you don't need. I feel in Taiwan there's something about showing your wealth. I feel there's a lot of people who buy expensive cars or fancy products or bags or even the scooters. When you see like younger kids riding the scooter, they often have those like shiny accessories and things like this. I feel there's this kind of social need to show
your money. The drawback is that all this spending could be something that you save and you get an early retirement. But if the money goes to those things, then you're giving up all this chance of saving.
Yeah, I think for us, so we definitely started on as soon as we started earning money. I think for me it was just because my parents were not making a lot of money, so for us it was always like, oh, we have to be very careful into how we spend. So I started that early on, and within 10 to 15 years I was able to reach financial independence. There is something important about the fact that if you start early on to be a bit more frugal in your spending, you will accelerate your time to financial freedom, and once you are financially free, then you can spend more, as paradoxal as it means. So it's kind of finding that trade-off. Are you okay to like work for 45 years, but keep having those nice things along the way, or do you just want to work for 10 years, 10 to 15 years, and then have much more freedom in your life?
Yeah. How would you say your lifestyle is? It seems that you do have money enough to retire, but you don't spend a lot either.
I think we are really minimalist.
Okay.
So we basically pay a lot of attention when we want to buy something. So every possession, especially because we travel and we only have like two backpacks each. We started as 2 backpacks each. Okay. To travel the world, you cannot just carry everything. So we have to let go. We used to rent an apartment in California, in San Francisco. So we have to let go of 90%, 95% of all of the stuff we've been accumulated. Going through that exercise was actually quite what's good, was very cleansing, because we realized that most of that stuff, whether it was like a stack of t-shirts or like random stuff that we bought that we've never used, we didn't really miss that stuff. All of the things we wanted to keep were memories or like things of sentimental values, and nowadays they are like digital.
It's funny, I have a few of those concepts from before. My rule was the 3-month rule. If there's one thing you have not touched for 3 months or more, it means you don't really need it. You know, there might be exceptions, but generally it's a good idea. Sometimes you're like, oh, I really like this thing. Yes, but when was it the last time you used?
Yeah,
it was 2 years ago. Then you throw it.
Yeah, so back to your question. So we don't need a lot of things. We just have, enjoy simple things in life. Like I said, most of our activities are going outdoor, and those activities does not cost us much. Like when you do hiking, it's a t-shirt, pair of sneakers, some food that you just grab some food at 7-Eleven, and yeah, good to go. So, and we are very happy with being in nature. And
any other misconceptions or things that you think people don't understand enough about this lifestyle?
One of the misconceptions, we didn't have inheritance from our family. Like I was saying, my family was very modest, so we have just to build our savings ourselves. Yeah, so I think a lot of people will think that people will just basically sacrifice their life, like their entire life, because they can only afford to live on so much. But I think we want to make it clear that it's not the case for us. We might have made the sacrifice early on. There is the first 10 to 15 years when we were kind of savings.
Working hard, saving
Working hard and increasing our incomes, getting promotions and those type of things. But now that we are financially free and we have that money that's going to last for us forever, we are really spending what we want to spend.
You don't really limit yourself.
Yeah, we don't limit ourselves.
Yeah. One thing earlier, you mentioned the rule of thumb, saving 25 times your yearly spending. A lot of people will expect that you saved this money and every year you pick from this money until at some point you have nothing left. But it's not how it works, right?
No, so actually and people can look up the 4% rules. That 4% is actually the amount of money that you can take every year out of that bag of money. And because over time, since that money is invested in the stock market, they realize that people that have been retiring for a period of 30 years or more, as long as they took 4%, their portfolio is never going to get to a point when it will get to 0.
Because their invested money also keeps growing.
Yeah, the idea is like the investment will give you an average between 8 and 10%. So if you remove to that the inflation, which is like 3-4%, you get to that 4%, right? So it's so that's the way it works. So you will never run out, and actually we are going to pass away with the same amount of money that we saved.
So you keep this money forever?
Yeah, basically.
That sounds crazy, you know, like I think a lot of people are not aware of this, really. I think there is one thing for Taiwanese people that maybe Taiwanese care a lot about is owning a house. In Taiwan, owning your own house is probably the biggest life goal of people. People start working with this in mind. I need to own my house in the future. I think Taiwanese people care also a lot about this for when they get old. They hope they have a house for their own and feel safe. Maybe you guys can leave a comment in the video My idea is one part is culture, and maybe the family is pushing people to own a house. Of course, it's a feeling of safety, right? Every country you have that kind of feeling like this is mine, I own this place. For some reason, I have never felt very interested in buying the house where I live. I like the fact that I can move around very easily, whenever I want. If I have a bad neighbor tomorrow that comes, it's very loud, listening to music all day, I can easily move. For me, I like renting.
I think society has kind of trained us to follow some rituals or some like plan. Like, you know, you go to school, you get a good degrees, and then you buy a nice home, maybe 1 car, 2 cars, have family and so on. For us, we didn't really pay too much attention to that. We just focus on ourselves. Try to design a life that we love. That's the way we like to say it on our blog. It's like, for us, if we will have to buy a place in San Francisco, it will have been, I think the real estate is really, really expensive. So we'll have to be working for sure our entire life just to pay the mortgage for the house. And the two of us has to do that versus, if we don't spend the time on the house, then we can use that money, invest it, and get our freedom.
I guess at some point in your life you also need to decide what do you want for your life. If your life goal is to own an apartment, you can probably go this direction. But of course you also have to understand it. You have a mortgage to pay for the next 30 years, so you cannot stop working, or if you lose your job you will be under stress. It's a direction to take, and I feel early retirement is probably a separate direction, so maybe you have to make a choice.
Yeah, I think for us early retirement give us options. So now we can, and because we love to travel, we can basically go anywhere. We are not really tied to one location. Because we don't have a work to start with, so we can just be very nomadic. And I think to your point was really good. Then if you want to have a home for your family, I think that's something we totally respect. But just to make sure that people understand the implication in terms of amount of time you have to spend to purchase the property, to pay the mortgage. So sometimes we feel like people just do it because everybody is doing it, but they are not thinking about what are the other options.
I would be interested to know what the audience has as a life goal. You know, do you think the most important thing financially is to buy a house, or let us know in the comments so we get a bit more idea of what Taiwanese people think. A lot of people will assume that you need to make a lot of money in order to succeed, like make more than 100,000 USD per year is the only way to succeed. What do you think?
I think it depends on how much you need to spend.
Yeah.
So it depends on the lifestyle that you want to have. So it's very personal. For us to travel the world is costing us about 1 million NTD per year. We were able to go to, like I said, different countries, have like nice meals and going in different places like Asia, Europe, USA, and it's working fine. So the amount that you need to save to achieve this is 25, that number, so 25 million NTD. If you can put that aside and do the investment, follow the investment rules, then that's enough. Some people like to stay home, so based on the cost of living, you have to look how much it costs me if I want to stay in Taipei, and but again, having those numbers in mind can start putting perspective, which I think is important.
Cool. It's funny that you said 25 million because I feel that's also the price of a lot of apartments in Taiwan, especially Taipei might be even more. So it means that everybody who has an apartment, who already owns an apartment, that's this price, could actually decide to retire.
And that as a couple, right? So each of us will need 12.5 each.
So if you do own an apartment, would you consider selling it and retire today, or keep your apartment but keep working for more years?
Another rule of thumb is like, if you know how much you save, the ratio between earning and savings, if you save 50% of your money, you only need, I think, 12 years. If you can save that much, in 12 years you should be reaching your financial independence goal.
Okay.
I think for us, because we were already savers early on, I think I started at 50% already. But then because I was increasing my earnings over time, that instead of increasing my spending and keeping the same lifestyles, that number were from 50, 60, 70, I think we ended at 85% the last year or two. Most people in the US save 5%. So if you save 5% of your income each year, that's why you need 45 years. That's actually why people have to work so much, because for that capital to grow, you will need 45 years or so.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people are very envious hearing that, you know, you can retire in your 30s. Maybe to summarize, what are the tips we would tell people if that's the direction they want to go?
I think the first thing is don't focus yet on getting financially free. Just make sure you have a reason for that, because that journey to financial independence can take anywhere from 10 to 20, maybe 30 years based on your savings and how much you can save. Then definitely works towards maximizing your savings, as we said.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to accelerate that path. I think that's a second good tip. Also take a moment to look at how much money you spend every day.
I haven't done this all the time, all these years, but once in a while, for 1 month or 2 months, I put all my daily expense in an app, and there's categories, like food and bills and trips. So after 1 month or 2 months, I can see, okay, where do I spend the most? And maybe my spending is too much Uber Eats, right? So if I realize, okay, I really spend too much on Uber Eats, then the next month I can try to improve a little bit, make adjustments. I think maybe it's something easy to start with.
I think it's a really good point. We love numbers and we love data. If you don't have data, you are basically flying blind. Like where am I spending? It's really hard, especially because you probably make thousands of expenses in a year. So I think that's a really good first exercise.
I think that's it. Anything else to add?
No, thank you so much for having us. Very excited to share our stories with your audience. We've been following your channel since we came to Taiwan, pretty much. And love everything you've been doing. So
thank you very much. I hope you guys also find some interesting information in this. I hope it's kind of bringing some different perspective, because maybe it's not super popular in Taiwan to have this goal of retiring early. So if you like this video, please give me a like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Does Mrs. No Man Number have anything else to share?
No, I think you covered everything.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.